Okay, so we have done with the system option, transaction source, transaction type, customers, collectors. Okay, we'll also now talk about the auto counting, and then we can proceed with the creating of the transactions. So with regard to auto counting, so as when we have defined your transaction type, we have seen that there are different kind of accounts which you have mentioned: your receivable account, revenue account, freight account, auto invoice clearing, tax, unbilled receivables, unearned revenue, couple of things like. So when you create your normal invoice, so these are the things which will be used: receivable account, revenue account, tax account, and there are a couple of other invoices wherein something like your guarantee or deposit, then your unbilled receivables or revenue accounts are used. But when you start with any new operating unit, you need to complete this auto accounting for all the transaction types just in one go. Okay, we'll start with the this particular transaction type. Okay, we need to go to setup transactions auto accounting. I think I'd already completed this. Let me requery. Yeah. Okay. So what we are saying is, as we know that we have got six segment structure: company, department, account, sub account, product, and intercompany. So when system is generating the accounting entries, say for a line type of freight, from where exactly you want each of these segment to be picked up. So you got couple of options here. This is not SLA. This is just the configuring of auto accounting. Based on this auto accounting rules, an account code combination will get generated when you create your AR invoice. In AP, if you remember, your supplier liability account is coming from your supplier side, but expense account you are manually entering. But as far as the AR is concerned, both your receivable account and revenue account will be automatically derived based on these auto accounting rules. So first take maybe an example, say receivable account. Okay, so here you are specifying, I mean, as I said, that when you create your AR invoice, your general entries, receivable account will be debited and revenue account will be credited. That's a simple journal entry. For the receivable account code combination, we have got an option, and here you can specify from where exactly system needs to pick up the each of the segments. So as far as the company is concerned, we can say that you want to system to pick up that from say transaction types. And as far as the department is concerned, it's a dynamically derived the total code combination. As far as the department is concerned, you can say that I want the department to be picked up from the supplier side. Okay. And as far as the account is concerned, transaction type, and sub account is concerned, you can say that I want the system to pick up the sub account from say supplier side and save this. Similarly for the product and intercompany. So what will happen is there is a receivable account code combination in the transaction type. There is a receivable account code combination even in the customer side. Okay. So I'll take an example. Take an example, the receivable account code combination in the transaction type is 01-0001210. Okay, this is the receivable account in transaction type. And in the supplier customer side, the receivable account is something like this. Okay, now when you create your AR invoice, how system is going to derive the receivable account? It is going to pick up the company segment from transaction type. So company segment is 01 hyphen, and what is the second segment? Department segment should be picked up from the site, and department segment should be, it will be 010, and account should be from the transaction type. So account is 1210, and we have mentioned the sub account from the customer side, so it will be 0010, and next to two segments, that is product and intercompany, from the transaction type, so it will be. So this is how system generates the receivable account code combination when you create your AR transaction using your auto accounting rule. So this is the source where you need to specify the source from where it needs to pick up the corresponding segment. If for some reason in that particular source there is no account which is mentioned, then when you try to create your invoice and try to save that, you will get an error message saying that auto accounting was not able to derive the account code combination. Please manually enter the account code combination. So what we did is, for all the what you call different kind of accounts, that is receivable account, revenue account, freight account, and tax account, I had mentioned the source as the transaction type. If you mention a different source, then under the particular source, you need to specify the corresponding receivable account. And again, the sources are again predefined. These are all the standard sources. In some cases, you can pick up, say, account from sales representative or site or transaction type. More or less, these are the same fields for each of the segment. But in some cases, I think if you go for revenue, you got some extra things, like you have something called standard lines. Okay. Standard lines is nothing but a memo lines. I'll explain that in a while. Okay, so you got such different kind of sources to pick up the segment value. So I had specified as transaction type for all the different kind of accounts, whether it's a receivable account or revenue account or tax or whatever it is. Okay, any questions here? This is also one of the important steps. Without completing this particular setup, you will not be able to proceed further with the transaction data entry. Any questions here?
So Arvind, so for each of the segment, we are asking it to take from the account that is specified at
Yes.
the table name is basically a transaction type setup, right?
Yes.
So from that setup, whatever is the account specified, from that you're asking to pick up just that particular segment only.
Yes, and then dynamically it is going to derive this particular code combination in the transaction. And we can also use something called constant. So far as the department is concerned, what I'll do is I'll just use a constant. So constant is, say, 109. So what will happen is, as far as the company is concerned, it is going to pick up from the transaction type. Department will be picked up from the, it will be constant value of 109. So in this case, it will derive it as, okay. So you got a couple of options. Either you can go for constant or you can go for the corresponding source. When you say table name, it is actually source, and the source is these things. Sales. I mean, you got only three sources here. Sales representative is generally, if you are using the sales credit functionality, there is a screen wherein you define your sales representative, and generally that particular screen is available in the order management. We can even assign that screen to AR responsibilities also. In the sales representative screen, you can specify the total account code combination. In all
Okay,
the sources,
and
remember, in all these sources, we are entering the entire code combination, the entire receivable account code combination, revenue account code combination in all the sources. But based on this particular setup, it is going to pick up each of the segment from the corresponding source.
okay, so basically this, unless the setup is changed, the account code combination remains same for the receivable account,
Yes. And again,
right?
remember, this is only just defaulting from for your invoice. So whatever the auto accounting rule you are setting, based on this setting, system is going to default or going to generate the receivable account in the invoice. But before you actually finally complete that particular invoice, or before you do a create account, you can very well change the defaulted value.
Okay, and one more thing, see, for example, I created one invoice now, okay, with and based on this setup, I got a code combination on the invoice. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I did not run the create accounting on that, but I went and changed the setup for, say, for example, the account, okay, to some other value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I create a new invoice, I will get the new code combination on the new one, correct?
Yes, yes, that's true.
For the old one, does it get changed?
No, for the old one, remember, like auto accounting will kicking only at the time of creation of the invoice. As soon as you create the invoice and you saved it, that's it. So if you want to make any further changes, you go to that particular manual invoice, make the change as long as it's not create accounted, or as long as it's not accounted. So the change will impact only for all the future invoices. But for the existing invoices, if you want make any changes, as long as it's not accounted, you can go and you need to manually make the change.
Okay, so we'll have to change it manually, right, on the existing invoices.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Okay.
Okay, so this is how you
Yeah.
need to do auto accounting rules for different accounts, receivable, revenue, tax, and other stuff. Okay. Now, as we have already done that, now we can proceed with the creation of the invoice transaction. And before we create the transaction, obviously we need to open the period, because this is the first time we are entering a transaction. So first we need to open the period. So last open period. Oh, I think looks like I had already opened the period September. But today is what, 1st of October, and we want to enter transaction with the date of 1st of October. So unless and until you open the period, that is the next period. Okay. Always system will allow you to enter the transactions only with the date on or before 30th of September. Now I want to enter with the system date, today's date. So I click on open next period. Okay. So this period is open now. Save this. Okay. October is also open. Now I should be able to enter transactions. Okay. The first thing is source. That is a manual source. Class. What do you want to enter? I want to enter an invoice. Okay. And what is the type? It will show you only those transaction types which are created with a class of transaction, class of invoice. If you change it to credit memo, then it will show you only those corresponding transaction type. So this is the transaction type whatever we have created. Okay. And the legal entity is automatically defaulted. So for some reason, Oracle is instead of showing the operating unit, is actually showing the corresponding legal entity of the operating unit in the AR screen. Whereas in all other subledgers, it generally shows the operating unit. Okay. So Reliance Textiles is our legal entity. If you remember, like Reliance Textiles is our legal entity under Reliance Cotton Extraction. And bill to customer and ship to customer. Here you can say bill to is mandatory, ship to is optional. So what is our bill to customer? Bill to customer is, I think we'll use Raymond's. Okay, Raymond Shootings, that's the number, and that's the bill to location. If you remember, when you are creating a bill to location, it has generated a default number for each bill to location, and that's the number, and you can see that's the address. Okay, that's the bill to location. And if you want, you can enter the ship to location. If you do not want to enter ship to location, you can leave it blank because it's optional. If you want, generally what we do is we generally enter the, as long as it's the same, we enter the same as the ship to location. And this is the header part. And then click on line items. And in the line items, if you are selling some items, then pick that particular item from the drop down. Obviously these items will come from the inventory module. So as we have not I mean, we have set up a dummy inventory arc, but we did not set up a what you call the items in the inventory arc. So nothing will be coming here. So what you can do is you can just enter some description here. Even though it looks like a drop down, but it's not exactly a drop down. You can, it's a free text. You can say you are selling it's a sale of some textile items, something like that. Quantity 1, price 1500. Save this. As soon as you save this, if there is obviously, as far as the tax is concerned, if you save this and if EB tax rules are set up, then a tax will be automatically calculated. So in this case, we did not set up any tax rules. So that's the reason your tax is 0. So 1500 is your invoice amount. Okay. And the other important thing in your AR invoices, like once you create your invoice, you need to click on something called complete. This is equivalent of validating an invoice in AP. As soon as you create your AP invoice, at end you need to click on validate button. So similarly in AR also, once you enter all the information, you need to click on complete button. So once you click on complete button, system is going to check a couple of other background checks, and if there are any errors, it will throw an error message. Otherwise, it will complete the invoice. So click on complete. Only once an invoice is completed, then only you can create accounting for this particular invoice. Similarly in AP also, only once an invoice is validated, then only you can do accounting for that. And in AP, only once the invoice is validated, then only you can make the payment. Similarly in AR also, only once the invoice is complete, then only you can do a receiving against this particular invoice. Okay. As soon as you click on complete, now the status has changed. I mean, the button has changed to incomplete. Here you can see a box of complete. So that means this is complete. Now, as it is in a complete status, all these things are grayed out. Couple of things are grayed out and couple of things you can change. I think most of the things are grayed out. And if you want to make some changes to these fields, what you need to do is you need to incomplete this invoice. Once you incomplete this invoice, now it is available for you. Now you can make the required changes. Okay. So now I'll try to complete this. Okay. And you remember, like, we did not enter any receivable account or revenue account. It is derived automatically based on our auto accounting rules. Now click on distributions. See, if you remember, for the receivable account, everything is from transaction type except the department. Department we have mentioned a constant value of 109. So that's the 109 is defaulted here. Similarly, for the rounding, revenue account, we have mentioned everything is from the transaction type, and from the transaction type it is defaulted. And incomplete this. Now go to distribution. It is defaulted. If you want, you can very well change the values. Now I just want to change this from 1009 to 000. Save this. Okay, complete this.
A quick question, Aravind.
Uh-huh.
Why distribution shows the rounding account entry? Because this INR currency only, right?
Yeah. So to be frank, even I'm not sure. Even in our current client, also that's an open ticket on us as to why system is always showing a rounding distributions, even though the amount is zero. But always for each transaction, for each and every invoice, it is actually pulling up this rounding distribution. So as of now, I do not have any answer on that. But from a financial impact perspective, it's a low priority ticket for us because there is no impact. It's only zero amount, or like 0 rupees in this case.
From the understanding perspective, the rounding difference will arise only when there is a gap in the exchange gain or loss when you deal with the foreign currencies, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, now the invoice is created. Okay, it's well and good, it's complete. Now you can create accounting. So as in the case of AP, you can run you can do an accounting for the invoice from the direct invoice workbench, or you can run your create accounting program. Similarly, even in AR also, you can run the create accounting program from the submit request window. I mean, you can go to view request and run the create accounting program, which will run the accounting for all the invoices which are not yet accounted. Or from the invoice screen also, you can do an accounting. I'll show you that. Tools, create accounting. So similarly in AP we have for draft accounting, final post. Similarly in AR also same draft accounting, and final post. If you want, first I'll try with the draft accounting. Click on OK.
One more thing, in AR, do we have any option of approving the transaction? I mean, I know it's a complete means the transaction is complete in the screen perspective, but if I want to extend it to get the complete approval, only if I receive the formal approval from my upper line or something like that.
Okay, so
Any feature is there?
Okay, so in general, we do not use an approval functionality for invoices. There are a couple of reasons. Okay, one reason is most of the clients generally get an AR invoice from sales order. Okay, so if it's a sales order related, it's already approved. I mean, so when you are actually booking a sales order, there are a lot of steps in the sales order. You need to have something called customer acceptance, and you need to even approve the. I mean, you can even integrate a approval functionality within the sales order. So like, and also the sales order is actually only once the ship is only once the what do you call goods are shipped via sales order, you are generating an AR invoice. So everything is done and dusted in sales order. You should not see any reason why you do not want to you should not raise any you should not see any reason why you want to go for another approval in AR, because goods are what do you call sent and customer has accepted, everything is fine. Okay, that is the one reason. And second reason is I have seen some clients wherein they do not directly generate invoices in AR. Okay, they actually generate the invoices in the operational system, and in the operational system there is already an approval mechanism. Okay, only once it is approved and done and dusted, then only those transactions will be sent to AR. So we do not want to create another hierarchy of approving these invoices in AR. But with regard to adjustment of the invoices, with regard to raising of a credit memos, we can use the approval functionality. If you enable the approval functionality, if you raise any credit memos or adjustments or kind of a receipt write-off or something like that, okay, Especially you can use the approval functionality, and we can integrate that approval functionality with the AME and write your own rules. But as such, for the invoices, I have never seen any client using the approval functionality as far as the AR is concerned. And also there is another reason. See, in AR you are getting the money. See, in the case of AP, you are paying something to your vendors.
That's what
So the money is going.
that's what
Obviously, you're more worried in there. But in AR, actually, you're trying to get a money from the customer. So obviously, there is no formal requirement to go for an approval.
so even the mistake the clerk or the person who is entering a transaction, it is revenue to the company, so they don't need approval process.
Kind of,
In a
yeah.
simple.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
but if we want to go for approval process, that's a customization, or if, do we have any seeded options available?
as far as I know, there is no seeded option for the invoices. It's the approval functionality is available only for the credit memos or adjustments or the receipt write-off. Even there is a screen called approval limits. I'll show you the screen. Okay, that's also one of my item. So in the screen also there you are specifying the approval limits for the credit memos or the receipt write-off or the adjustments, not for the invoices. So based on those limits, the approval goes to the corresponding person.
Oh, that you will define in that approval limits thing
Yep, yep,
itself.
yep, yep.
Okay.
Okay. So this invoice is
And
yeah.
and one more thing, Arvind, this invoice you just click complete, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and also I see incomplete also enabled. So you can do back and forth activity if you have both complete and incomplete options
No, no. So
for
when I
a
see,
particular person.
no, no. See, first try to understand. Requery this. It is now incomplete is enabled. So that means it is in complete status. But now you want to incomplete this. Okay. Click on incomplete. Save this. Okay. Now there is no complete checkbox here. So that means now make the required changes. Now click on complete button. Okay. Now click on complete button. So that button is dynamically changing from complete to incomplete. If you are able to see the text as complete, so that means it is not yet completed. System is asking you to complete. Okay, save this. Now you can see it is in complete status. So that means it is now in complete status, and if you want to incomplete, click on incomplete button. It is now complete. Got it?
Yeah, I got this point, but my point is, if I am only if my role is to key in only the transactions in AR, and there is another colleague sits with me, his role is to only to issue a receipt against this particular transactions in a day-to-day job. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
since I am the only person who key in the transactions, I can play around for my work perspective, like open, close, incomplete, complete, incomplete, complete.
Okay.
But I have to understand that using this transaction, there is another person who sits besides me is actually doing the receipt against this transaction, and because of this back and forth activity happening in the transactions, do I see any impact in the receipt level when it is actually applying it?
Of course, yeah.
You
Because see,
understand the point?
yeah, I understood. Like, so now it is in complete status. Okay, say let us assume I'm a invoice data entry person and you are a receiving guy. Okay, now it is in complete. Okay, now you can go to the receipt workbench and you can create the receipt against this particular invoice. But when I try to click on incomplete, okay, you have not yet started picking up that particular invoice. Okay, you just put your receipt header details and you went into a line level wherein you are trying to pick. Before you are trying to pick, I click on incomplete. Save this. Okay, then you will not be able to see this particular invoice in your drop down. Okay, but again, this being a testing environment, we are doing so many incomplete and incomplete. But in a live environment, this is not a playground. Nobody will be doing a complete and incomplete on a daily basis.
Hmm.
Got it? So once an invoice is completed, generally you do not do an incomplete. So in our current client, once you complete, in order to incomplete, if I want to incomplete, we have enabled a DFF, and in the DFF, I need to specify the reason why I am incompleting this particular invoice. Okay, and also
Oh,
we have also did some kind of a form personalization on this particular page, which will store the details of the person who has incompleted the invoice and as well as the date, just for our audit trial perspective.
okay. Okay, okay, that's what I'm looking for. I mean, do we have any approach of making it as mandatory while you're doing that incomplete activity?
Yeah, so in
So
our
that's
case,
basically
yeah, so
right.
yeah, so in our case, I mean, again, there's no standard functionality there, but in our case, in order to incomplete that, we have enabled a DFF, and DFF is a mandatory one. So if I click on incomplete button, it will throw a message saying that please enter the incomplete reason information in the DFF. That's the error message which says, and I need to go to this particular DFF, enter the reason, and then come back and just click on complete.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay. Now click on tools, create accounting, draft accounting. Accounting has been
I
successfully
think you
created.
submitted.
Sorry.
I think you already submitted.
No, but I did. What do you call? I incompleted that. So if you incomplete, the draft accounting will be gone.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so this is the accounting entry. Here you can see accounting entry for both the primary ledger as well as the secondary ledger. Okay, so for the primary, put your cursor in the primary ledger. It will be a same journal entry. Okay, but this is going to primary ledger. This is going to secondary ledger. Unless until you do some kind of a SLA customization, it may go to different accounts in the in this second ledger compared to your primary ledger. So click on view journal entry. So here you can see receivable account, this account code combination got debited and revenue account got credited. And if it is transferred to GL, then once you click on this expand, you will be able to see the corresponding GL batch name and journal entry name also if you have transferred to GL. But now we are still in the draft status. We have not yet final completed this. So now let us try to do a final accounting. So as it is in draft status, it will allow you to complete and incomplete. Now let us try to do a final accounting. Final accounting. Accounting has been successfully created. Okay, now requery this should be grayed out. Okay, this is grayed out because it is finally completed. Now you cannot incomplete this. It's done and dusted. Here you can see it is posted to 1st of October GL date, all the lines. Okay, even though it looks you should be able to change that, but it should not allow. I don't think so it will allow. Let us try. Okay, so when I try to change this, it has created a reversal line. So obviously, okay, it has reversed this one and it has created the new line, which makes sense. At the end of the day, it's kind of a reversing of the existing revenue line and creating a new revenue line. Okay, if you put my cursor here, this is posted. This is posted. So this reversal line is not posted. So this is posted. Again, this line is not posted. So now if you do a create accounting once again, even these two lines will be posted. Okay, so once it's in a complete status, only option is you can make some changes to the revenue account, but you will not be able to make any other changes to any of the other details. So once you make the changes to the revenue account, you need to rerun the create accounting. Okay, now go to tools, view accounting. Okay, you'll be able to see some additional rows here. So additional row is because of those reversals whatever we have created. Okay, so now this is how you create a standard invoice. The normal invoice. Now you want to create a credit memo against this particular invoice. So in order to do a credit memo against this particular invoice, again even in AR also you can do a standalone credit memo and then apply that particular credit memo to the invoice, or from the invoice screen itself you can create a credit memo. So from the invoice screen, if you want to create a credit memo, so this is outstanding $1,500. Now I want to create a credit memo of say 500 rupees. Sorry, not $1,500, 1,500 rupees. That's the currency. Go to actions, credit. Okay, I am creating a credit memo, and what is my credit memo type? Manual credit memo. This is what we have created, and I want to what do you call credit only percentage of the amount. So click on lines only, put an amount, or you can put a percentage. If I put a percentage of say 33%, it will show you 499.55, or you can directly enter the direct amount. Okay, and then click on, I think you can directly click on save. Okay, transaction complete, applied and received. So this is the credit memo number which got generated, and click on complete.
Arvind, you anyway specified it's a credit memo, right? Should you enter the minus sign
Here
always?
No,
Yeah.
so here if I try to enter a positive sign, then it will throw an error message. It's a free text.
Also,
You need to enter a value
okay.
there. Okay, if I put a percentage, then automatically it is showing minus 500 or minus 499.55. Here we got an option of entering a percentage or entering a manually amount. If you are manually entering the amount, try to put the value, and if you put a positive value, it will throw an error message, because in the transaction type definition we said that credit memo should be always a negative.
So you should always enter with a negative sign in front.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Now
And one more
this is
thing,
the
in the transaction type, we defined the sign of this type should be negative, right?
yeah.
That is the validation here.
Yes.
If you enter positive error,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so this is the original invoice. Earlier it was showing balance as 1500. Now it is showing 1000. You can see, click on details. 1500 is the original balance. 500 is the credit. Okay, and now outstanding balance is 1000. Okay, so this is the original invoice. Okay, now if you want to, from the this invoice, you want to see what exactly is the corresponding credit memo, whatever is being created. Okay, click on actions, installments. Okay, click on activities. Here you can see this is the credit memo which is created against the particular original invoice. So if you click on details, it will take you to the credit memo. In the credit memo, if you go to the reference information, here you will be able to see the details of the original invoice against which you have entered this particular credit memo. And also, yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, so in the reference tab here, you can see the different details of the original invoice, and this is the original number. Okay, when you are creating your invoice print program, obviously that being your custom program, you can display this particular original transaction number, which is available in the screen in your what do you call it, template, your invoice print layout. In the invoice print layout, you can add one more field by name original invoice, and that field will be populated only when you are creating a credit memos. And when you are printing your standard invoices or the normal invoices, that field will be blank. Does this answer your question? I think this was asked by Narendra sometime back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is how you will be able to see the under invoice. You will be able to see the credit memo details. Under credit memo, you are able to see the original invoice because both are linked. And as far as this credit memo is concerned, you can see minus 500, which is applied against that particular invoice, and the invoice details will be, you'll be able to see it here. Okay. So here you can see the balance due on that particular invoice is 1000. 1500 was the original amount, and 1000 is the due amount. And now coming back to the debit memo. So as I said, the debit memo is just a standalone invoice. You cannot create a debit memo against a invoice. So if you want to create a debit memo, drop down, it will show you the transaction types which are created with a type of debit memo or with a class of debit memo. There is only one transaction type which is here, and payments. You can leave the ship to blank. The payment terms is defaulted from your customer side. Click on line items, enter some description, rendering of some services. Okay, I'll use a different amount, maybe 20,000. So for some for some reason, if you want to use some kind of a what you call extra fields to which will get printed in our invoice, which is a this is a reference of some original invoice, you can use it. So in our case, we are using this special instructions and comments field in our current client for the debit memos, and here we mention this is a debit memo linked to original invoice. And in our invoice print program, which is a custom program, we have a field for comments. So that's why when I send this particular debit memo invoice copy to my customer, this particular comments field will give him the information that this particular debit memo is linked to the corresponding standard invoice. Okay, save this. Click on complete. Okay, and now try to do an accounting entry. The accounting entry for this will be again same, receivables account will be debited and revenue account will be credited. Okay, now with regard to credit memo, can anybody tell me what will be the journal entry for the credit memo? So for the original invoice, the journal entry will be receivable account debit. I think we have already entered it somewhere. Okay. For the original invoice, the journal entry will be receivable account will be debited with $1,000 and or 1,000 rupees, and revenue is created with 1,000 rupees. So let us assume I created a credit memo of say 200 rupees. So what is the journal entry for the credit memo? Any guess?
Cash account 200 debit and receivable account credit 200.
Okay, first question. Why are you debiting cash account? Are we getting cash from the customer?
Not yet, because receipt is not applied.
Yes. Then what is the entry for the credit memo? So simple terms, understand credit memo is just a negative invoice. It is a replica. It's a negative or the reversal of the original invoice. So the journal entry will be exact reversal of this particular entry. There are two ways you can do that. So the entry will be revenue account debit $200 or 200 rupees, receivable account credit 200 rupees. It's a reversal of the original invoice. So this is the one way of showing the entry. Or other way would be think that credit memo is also like any other invoice, and then your entry should be something like
Negative amount.
okay, both are one and the same. This and this both are one and the same. Here your receivable account is debited with minus 200, which is nothing but you are crediting the receivable account 200. Revenue account is credited with minus 200, which is nothing but you are debiting the revenue account with 200. Okay, both are one and the same. So when you look at the accounting entry, either you will be able to see accounting entry in this fashion, or you should be able to see accounting entry in this fashion. Now query for that particular credit memo, and we'll see the accounting entry, how system has generated the accounting entry. See, in this case, I had already finally accounted. If I try to again do accounting, it says no accounting will be created for this document because it is already accounted. And also without even completing the invoice, if you try to go and click on tools, create accounting, I think that will be in a disabled mode. You will not be able to do that. Okay. Click on view journal entry. Okay. Why did we see 2 times? Did we try multiple times for the credit memo? Ideally, we should be able to see only one receivable. Okay, hang on. Okay, okay. Ignore this receivable debit and receivable credit. So not sure like what is the issue in the SLA because of which it has created this additional entry. But the net effect is same. So receivable debited 500, receivable credited 500. So ignore these two lines. So our entries, revenue should be debited with 500 and receivable should be credited with 500, which is what we can see here. That is what I had explained here. Revenue should be debited with 200, receivable should be credited with 200. Revenue is debited 200 and receivable is credited 200. And this first entry and the last entry, it is they are netting to zero. I mean, like it is debited with 500 and credited with 500. Maybe looks like it is with the same account. Looks like it's some issue in the SLA. But anyway, it do not have any financial impact because the same account is getting debited and credited with the same amount.
No, that is, I think the adjustment of, I mean, once you done the create accounting, you change the distribution line to different revenue account or
No,
something
no,
like
no.
that.
That we did it for the invoice, not for the credit memo.
Okay, okay.
This is a credit memo, and in the credit memo, and that too, we did that for the revenue, not for the receivables. So here you can see receivables. Okay. Anyhow, that do not have any impact. Our required entries, this part, which we can see, revenue is debited and receivables is credited.
So, just to extend, Arvind, let's say that for this credit memo, there is an underlying transaction, right? Invoice.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume that we issued a receipt to that invoice, and when you create credit memo against that, if there is any unpaid amount for the transaction and you created a credit memo for that transaction,
Mm-hmm.
like discussed, the accounting entry should be the instead of revenue here, cash account will come. You mean to say?
Yeah, I mean, when you create a receipt for the what do you call the amount, then see in this example, okay, in this example for 1,000 rupees for credit memo, this is entry, okay. And if there is a receipt of for, say 600 rupees or say 800 rupees in this case, cash account will be
Yes.
debited with 800 and receivable account will be credited with 800, and this entry you can see in the receipt screen. And the net impact is receivable account outstanding amount of $1,000 debit or 1,000 rupees debit is here 800 it got credited and 200 it got credited. So the net impact is this particular invoice has got an outstanding balance of 0. Okay, 800 is the cash we have received and 200 is the credit we have given it to him. So the net impact is 0.
No, let's take for unpaid, like instead of 800, just make it as a 400
Okay,
in
I'll
the
say
receipt.
400. Okay, so at this stage, take an
Yeah.
example. I did not create any credit memo. Okay, so this is the invoice. For this invoice, this is the receipt which is created. Okay, now outstanding amount on this particular invoice is 600. Okay, now I want to create a
Yes.
credit memo. System will allow me to create credit memo only for an amount less than or equal to 600.
Less than or equal to 600.
Because
Okay.
600 is
If
the
it
outstanding amount.
is okay. Okay. If it is let's say 400.
Another 400 for credit memo.
Yeah, credit memo.
Okay,
And this is the entry.
yeah.
Accounting entry would be like this only.
Yeah, so this is the 400 entry for credit memo. Now, as far as this invoice is concerned, still there is an outstanding amount of 200 rupees. For the 200 rupees, either you can create a receipt or you can create a credit memo.
Okay. So my understanding is like whatever the unpaid amount in the invoice level,
Mhm.
that amount is eligible to create a credit memo, but we cannot make knockoff using the receipt against this transaction in
No, no, no,
terms of credit memo.
I think you are confusing. So, simple example: there is an outstanding. Forget about the accounting entries. First, try to understand the concept. Okay, outstanding amount of 1,000 rupees. Out of 1,000 rupees, I mean, when you say an invoice with an outstanding amount of 1,000 rupees, you are expecting to receive 1,000 rupees from the customer. Okay, out of 1,000 rupees,
Yes.
he says that I am going to pay you only 800 rupees. Okay, I am going to raise your credit memo of 200 rupees because the 200 rupees got worth of goods are say called destroyed or damaged or whatever it is. So you get a receipt of 800, and so in that case you will get a receipt of 800 and credit memo will be 200. So your outstanding amount of invoice will be 0. Second scenario, your customer says that okay, I am going to pay you say 400 rupees. Okay, and give me credit of 500 rupees because 500 rupees is damaged goods. Okay, and there is still an outstanding amount of 100 rupees. Keep it that I am going to pay you say next month. That is another scenario.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Okay, ultimately what you are saying is you are not overcharging, or like you are supposed to raise your credit memo or your receipt only to the extent of the invoice value, unless and until there is something called allow overlap application checkbox in the transaction type. I've never seen any client using the particular functionality. If you check the particular checkbox, system will allow you to create some over receipt also, which is not a normal business scenario. But otherwise, in a normal business scenario, you are not supposed to create any receipt or credit memo, or the sum of these receipts and credit memos should not exceed the invoice amount.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Okay. Uh, okay. Do you want me to stop here, Niranjan?
Yeah. Better man.
Yeah, yeah, I know it's too late for you. Okay, next week, uh, first day, which is Saturday, we'll try to complete this AR. and Sunday I want to start with the fixed assets. I think we are now left with my target is to complete the classes by this weekend, because from this particular weekend I'll not be available. I'm going to India for 6 weeks. I'll not be 5 weeks. I'll not be available. So I want to target to complete everything by this Sunday. So we have got 2 weekends, and I have planned appropriately, and I should be able to do that. So I'll be able to complete this on Saturday, and then again on Sunday this, and then the next weekend I should be able to cover these two. This on one day and this on
We
another
have
day.
we have 3 weekends, right?
2 weekends, 7th, 8th, 14th, 15th. So we have got 4 classes.
14, 15 only. Okay.
Yeah, and cash
Hey, one more
management
thing.
we have already covered everything. So hardly just the bank statement. Yeah.
Are we covering in receivables collectors and the collection data?
So collectors, I had shown you how to create a collector, how to assign that collector to a customer. I can just use this, what do you call, close this form.
I mean, what is the? I mean, just give a highlight of advanced collections, how it actually works, and also.
I can give you say some highlights about the advanced collections, but I cannot get into the details. Advanced collection has got its own functionality there, because that's not part of our training session. But I can give you an overview of what you do in your advanced collection. Maybe I can just cover in 10-15 minutes.
And also bills receivables is something different, Arvind, here.
Bills receivables is the same functionality which is there in 11. It's the same thing in R12. I have never worked on the bills receivable. So I can explain you the concept or the definition of bills receivables in AR and bills payable in AP. But I've never worked on the bills receivable. So again, bills receivable, again, it's altogether totally a different a story behind there. Again, you need to create a transaction type, sources for the bills receivable, and then again, you need to create the activities there.
Just give the overview, like what is that concept? Okay, why we want to use that one? So that way, let least help us.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.